The night shift at a second-rate fast food joint is where time goes to die. Minutes take hours and hours take years. There are only so many times a person can fill the sour cream and guacamole guns in one go without wanting to put them to your temple and pull the trigger. Would it kill you? No. Would it make a mess? Absolutely. And what a godsend that would be. It would give you something to do. Mas Tacos was in the Bentwater Corners, a small suburban strip mall with little to no foot traffic. Every store here was the generic version of something more successful. Like a copy, it never looked as good as the original. I told friends Bentwater Corners was the island of misfit toys. It surprised me that we stayed in business at all. We were located between Burgers Ahoy, another also-ran chain restaurant, and the confusing Bank of Chester. I don't know if somebody named the bank after a founder or a city named Chester, and it was never explained to me. In the 5 months that I worked at the taco shack, I had never seen a person enter or exit the bank. Hell, I had never even seen anyone use the ATM, not even to pull out drug money. My school schedule forces me to work late nights. I'm there from 6 in the evening until around midnight or a little bit after, depending on how much cleaning that we have to do. Often I'm in my car by 12:01. Like I said, we're never busy. After our dinner rush of about 6 to 15 people, we have nothing but time to kill. We clean and prep, and once that's done, we double and triple check our work. If we still have time, the entire shift takes turns messing around on their phone while keeping an eye out for Mary, our manager. I didn't mind Mary. After years of being a stay-at-home mom, her divorce suddenly threw her back into the workforce. Sometimes she acted a bit harried and cracked the whip, but she was also understanding. Mary wasn't the ogre that some of my fellow coworkers made her out to be. She was the boss that had to do boss things occasionally. Those actions often flew in the face of people trying to do as little as possible and still stay gainfully employed. Most nights, I worked with the same crew of miscreants. They were an eclectic bunch, but we all got along. It's like soldiers in the army. You're thrown into a foxhole with whoever and end up bonding over your shared trauma. Most nights it was me, an aspiring rapper named Doug, aka the Doug Father, Jenna, a social media influencer in training, and a rotating cast of new hires. This night the new guy was a pale goth guy named Reggie. If you asked me, Reggie isn't exactly a goth-sounding name, but who am I to judge? Tonight, while we were going about our normal Dodge Mary routine, I heard Mary let loose a string of curse words from her little office that would make a sailor blush. I took this as a cue to put my phone away and pick up a mop. As I was wringing it out, a frazzled Mary came rushing to me. Her face was panic-stricken and slightly pale. Something was wrong. "Oh, Jill, my asshole ex just called. He was letting Jeremy play Superman at home." "Superman?" She sighed. I could tell that this had been a point of contention before. The asshole ex lets him jump off the top bunk into a pile of pillows. Anyway, Jeremy landed on his arm funny and the asshole ex thinks that he may have broken it. They're off to urgent care right now. I have to go meet them there. "Of course," I said. "Should we close up or—" "Oh, I can't close this early. Mr. Adamyan would kill me if he found out that we did," she sighed. "Can I trust you to close up the shop tonight? I can give you the alarm codes and the keys." Her face was pleading as intensely as her words. I saw the worried mom look in her eyes and my heart softened. "Of course, go be with your kid." "Oh my God, thank you. I owe you big time." "It's family stuff, no worries." She gave me a quick hug and whispered, "I can't trust anyone else. You're the only one here going places, present company included." "Oh, not true," I said smiling. "You're going to be with your baby." She gave me a friendly smile. "Thank you, you're a hero." She ran back to her office to gather her things. As soon as she was out of sight, Doug sidled up to me. He nodded toward Mary's office. "What did Live, Laugh, Love want with you?" I grinned. "She put me in charge for the night." Doug laughed. "God, dog, this whole place is gonna go up in flames then." "Shut up," I said, punching his arm. "How come she picked you? She should have picked me," he said, frowning. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Doug feigned defense. "Shit, if I ran this place, I'd have us going toe-to-toe with Taco Bell in 2 weeks. People would be beating down the doors to get our sopa de awesomes and sombrero taco boxes." "Uh-huh. And once I launched our new mascot, Mr. Taco, shit, we'd be rolling in dough. Or tortillas, as it were, before adding, 'And Mr. Taco, that's the best name you got.' Gotta keep the names simple for Americans. We're simple people. Check this, though. Mr. Taco would have a huge sombrero and those bullet things across his chest. But instead of bullets, they'd be little tacos. Pretty slick, right? The taco guy would have smaller tacos as decorations. In a world of living and breathing tacos, wouldn't those little tacos be baby tacos? Kinda messed up, Doug." "Yeah, Joe's right. The name needs work," Jenna said, joining us by the nacho station. "I know branding and Mr. Taco doesn't cut it. When I started my GRWM videos, I started calling them Watch a Girl Glow Up to stand out. I gained 200 followers overnight." "'Cause you were showing off your curves, Jenna. You got it easy." Jenna laughed. "Easy? You tried coming up with compelling daily content to satisfy thousands of parasocial stans. Boobs and ass can only take you so far. To that end, maybe Mr. Taco needs a lady friend. Señorita Carnitas." "Oh, I like that," Jenna said. "Name is better too." Doug waved us off. "Man, y'all overthink things. Mr. Taco don't need a lady. He's too wild to be tamed. He's got that iconic Ronald McDonald energy. For real, kids would be taking photos and shit with him. Drawing pictures. I probably won awards for creating him." "Let's get a normie's view on this," Jenna said. "Hey Reggie, what do you think of Mr. Taco?" The quiet guy just shrugged his shoulders, and Doug nodded. "See, he knows that it's fire. Good shit, Reg. And y'all ain't even heard about Taco Land yet. It's full of kick-ass characters." And before I could further explore the origins of Taco Land, is that where Chester is located? Mary came back into the kitchen with her purse on her shoulder and keys clutched in her hands. She called everybody over inside. "Look, my kid hurt himself and I have to go. Jill's in charge while I'm gone. What she says goes. If she tells me that you guys made her life hell, so help me God, I'll have you cleaning the grease traps for a week. Am I clear?" Everybody nodded. Mary turned to me and placed her hand on my shoulder. "If you need anything, and I mean anything, don't hesitate to call or text me, okay?" "Gotcha. Thanks again. No worries, go see Jeremy. I know that he needs his mom." Mary gave me a kind nod before blowing out of the shop. Seconds later, we saw her taillight speed down the road. I turned back to my staff and saw that all of them had pulled out their phones already. I wasn't upset. We were ahead in our cleaning and the real boss was gone. At this point in the evening, we were just running down the clock anyway. I just prayed that no fires broke out in the last few hours that we were open. Seemed simple enough. About 20 minutes after Mary left, the restaurant's phone started ringing and gave us all a shock. We had never heard the phone ringing here before. Hell, Jenna admitted that she actually had never seen a landline in person before tonight. The phone was in Mary's office. Jenna, Doug, and I made our way over there. Reggie was in his own world and we didn't bother him. "Should I answer?" I asked. "Hey, you're the boss," Doug said. "What if it's a supplier with questions about, I don't know, stock or something?" "No supplier's gonna call a store at close to 10 o'clock at night," Jenna said. It could be Mr. Adamyan, I said. What would he think if he called and Mary didn't answer? Just tell him that she's taken a huge dump and she'll call him back, Doug said. And guarantee he won't be asking any follow-up questions. Oh, that's vile, Doug, Jenna said, her face twisting in disgust. I solve problems, Jenna. Sometimes that means going a vile route. Oh shit, vile route, that's a banger, Doug said, jotting the note into his lyric book. I'm gonna answer it, I said. I walked into Mary's office and plucked the receiver up from the cradle. Hello? Hey, this is Paul over at Burgers Ahoy. Hi, if you want something, just come on over and order. We're really slow tonight. No thanks, I was calling to ask if you knew that you have a guy who's been standing at your drive-thru speaker for 10 minutes. What? I asked, confused. When somebody pulls up to the drive-thru speaker, a whole host of things happen. A timer starts, bells ring, and the staff jumps into action. But nothing ever sounded. The shop had been quiet. I told Paul as much. Well, we've been watching him for a while. He's standing there. It's unsettling. What's going on? Who is it? Jenna asked. Oh, it's Paul from Burgers Ahoy. He says somebody's been standing at the drive-thru speaker for 10 minutes. Why the hell would he do that? Doug asked. You want me to send you a video? Give me your number and I'll text it over. It's so weird, Paul said. Hold up, let me have somebody check our monitors, I said. I turned to Doug but was already heading that way. A few seconds later, I heard him yell back that there wasn't anything on the screen. I told Paul. I don't know what to tell you. Everybody here sees it. He's wearing a long black trench coat and, I don't know, those old hats from the 1930s. A derby, I think. I gave Paul my number and told him to send me the video. I got the number to Burgers Ahoy and told him that I would call him back as soon as we watched it. He told us to be safe and he hung up. A few seconds later, my phone dinged and I had a new text message. Hold up, Jenna said, pulling out her phone. I am 100% taking a video of all this. Ghost things go nuts on TikTok. Doug, call Reggie in here, I said. I don't know, man, that dude gives me the squirmy squiggles and shit. Maybe he's the haunted one. Oh, come on, he's new and shy. You remember what it was like being the new guy here. He relented and went to grab Reggie. Once we were all in the back room, I pressed play on the video. The first image was the bright pirate-themed interior of Burgers Ahoy. And Doug snorted. They need a mascot too. Let me guess, Mr. Burger, Reggie said to our surprise. We all laughed. Score 1 for the new guy, Jenna said, elbowing his arm. Reggie blushed. Okay, so like I was saying, Paul said on the video, this dude has just been standing by the speaker for 10 minutes. Not moving, not ordering, just standing and looking all old and shit. Another employee at Burgers Ahoy yelled, Oh man, the taco place don't have a ghost. The video was shaky and got worse as Paul zoomed in. Jenna let out an annoyed sigh. Oh, get some basic camera control, will you, Burger Boy? Once the image of our drive-thru came into focus, we all gasped. Sure enough, there was a man standing right next to our drive-thru speaker. He looked just like Paul had said, wearing a long black trench coat and a derby hat. We all jumped when the office phone started ringing again. After the initial scare, we all started laughing. Even Reggie smiled and I picked up. Well, was I lying? Paul asked. No, that's pretty weird. One of you should go check it out, he said. Absolutely not. Not in a million years, dude. What's he saying? Doug asked. He said that somebody should go check it out. Oh my god, Jenna said. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. If you go, you need to record it for my page, Jenna added. Yo, tag me in the description. I'm at the Doug Father too. There were two of the Doug Fathers, I asked. Yeah, and that fake Doug Father got 0 bars. Do you want me to go out with you? Paul asked. I'm curious. When did we decide that I was going out? I said into the speaker. You're the boss lady, Doug said. And you're the nicest and the least threatening, Jenna added. I'd skip it, Reggie said. Not worth the trouble. Whatever new guy votes 2-1, you gotta go. I don't get a vote? I asked. Come on, Jill. Can't make the Mas Tacos crew seem like a bunch of babies, Doug said. I'll keep an eye on Jenna. Reggie will keep an eye on Reggie. You keep an eye and, more importantly, the camera on the ghost, Doug said. It's a win-win, girl. I looked up at them and sighed. Paul heard and sighed back. Hey, if it helps, I drew the short straw too, he said. Managers gotta manage all situations right. I'm just a temporary manager and nowhere does it say that I have to go confront creepy weirdos standing motionless in the drive-thru line. I know, but I keep circling back to what happens at the end of our shifts if this guy is still there. My guess is we both work with some people who aren't dealing from a full deck. Paul confided to me. That said, I don't want to see any of them get hurt. Shit, he had me there. I didn't want to see that either. Is the guy still there? He's not showing up on our screens. Julie, is the guy still? Okay, yeah, he's still there. Meet me in between the restaurants and we'll walk over together. If you try anything, I have mace and I'm not above kicking a guy in the dick. Paul laughed. Save that energy for the ghost guy. We hung up and my crew looked at me and there was genuine excitement in their eyes. I mean, I couldn't blame them. This was easily the most engaging thing that's happened to Mas Tacos since we had introduced the churro shake. Okay, I started. I'm meeting Paul from Burgers Ahoy and we're going to go check on this guy. If anything happens, please call the police and then Mary. Jenna held out her phone. I'm entrusting Sasha to you. Please get good footage. No shaky shit like your burger boy. I took her phone. He's not my burger boy. Maybe you should stay away, Reggie said. Where was this energy earlier? I asked, throwing up my hands. You ever dealt with anything like this before? Reggie asked. Have any of you? Oh shit, are you the little boy from The Sixth Sense? Jenna said. We all laughed, but it was more from nerves than the zinger. I've had some weird shit happen to me before. It could attach itself to you. Don't listen to the new guy, Doug said. This could blow up online. A haunted taco shop, I mean shit. Mr. Taco and Taco Land might become a reality if this hits. Just keep an eye on the monitor, I said. I'll record that so that we can combine videos later, Doug said. He put his two hands together and formed a circle. Symbolic shit, he said with a grin. I think you mean symbiotic, I said, standing near the side door. Whatever English textbook. Go meet a ghost. I walked out into the crisp fall night and felt a chill wrap around my body. I rubbed my arms with my hands and thought about anything warm. As I took a few steps away from the restaurant, the smell of burnt hair stung my nostrils. I gave my outfit a quick sniff, but it wasn't me. Before I could explore further, I caught my first glimpse of Paul heading over. He was a lanky boy with swept-over brown hair. He had on an old faded hoodie that clung to his body. Paul had a baby face, but I didn't hate it. From this distance, I enjoyed the view. Paul clocked me and gave me a small and friendly wave. I waved back and walked over to him. He was cute in an aw shucks kind of way. I dug him. Maybe there was a silver lining to all this nonsense after all. Hey, sorry if this ruins your night, he said, but it was really freaking us out. No, it's okay. How often do you get to see a ghost up close? Hey, it may not be a ghost, Paul offered. We can't see him on our cameras. Well, we don't have to get that close. Let's confirm that he's there and then head back. And then what? He shrugged. I don't know, call Ghostbusters? I laughed. I have a proton pack in my car if things get crazy. Just don't cross the streams, huh? That cemented my little growing crush. I might have to stop by Burgers Ahoy more often. In fact, I might be the only customer that they have that entire day. We made our way over to the side of our building and started inching along the wall. We passed the second drive-thru window and I peeked inside. Jenna, Doug, and Reggie were watching me on the security cameras. I remembered to pull up Jenna's camera and press record. I aimed it at Paul. "Paul, do you have anything to say before we encountered the dead?" "Yes, Jill. Please buy me a churro shake after this. For my troubles." I laughed. "Hey, if we survive, I'll give you one free of charge." "I don't think Mr. Adamyan will appreciate you giving stuff away. I gave a homeless guy an unpicked up DoorDash order once, and he threatened to fire me." I stopped walking. "Wait, Mr. Adamyan owns Burger Ahoy and Mas Tacos. That man sure knows how to pick 'em. Hey, we all have our faults. Me, I like bad horror movies. Mr. Adamyan, the man loves failing fast food franchises. Maybe the Bank of Chester is funding his addiction. Where is Chester anyway?" "I thought it was a person," I said excitedly. Before we could continue our back and forth, an electric popping sound filled our ears and the entire strip lost power, plunging us into darkness. Out of instinct, I leaned against the building trying to hide. Paul joined me in hugging the wall. "What the hell?" he whispered. I don't know." And then 3 loud bangs. Somebody beat on the glass of the drive-thru window. I let out a scared yelp before I reached my hands up and snatched it back into my throat. Somebody pulled open the window. It was Doug. "Doug, what the hell?" "Hey, Jill, the power went out." "I know, you scared the hell out of me." "We saw the ghost. It looked just like your burger boy said it did." Jenna yelled from behind him. "Burger boy," Paul said. I ignored him. "Where did you see it?" "On the drive-thru screen. He looked at us before the power went out." "What?" "Yeah, he looked pissed off," Doug unhelpfully added. "Oh, fantastic," I whispered. "Is everybody okay?" "I'm chillin'. Jenna was freaking out, but she's okay." "What about Reggie?" Yo, Reg the sledge, you feeling okay?" Reggie didn't respond. Doug yelled again, but the result was the same. My team had lost a team member in the 10 minutes that I was away from them. Mary's job is so much harder than it seems. I sighed. "Where did he go?" Maybe we should head back," Paul started. But the ka-ching of the drive-thru menu lights returning to life cut him off. They were the only lights that came back on. We cheated off the wall and craned our necks towards the light like moss looking for a fix. Our jaws dropped. Reggie was standing there. "Reggie, what are you doing?" They're back," he said, his voice trembling. I can't move." The lights went out again. Everything around us went still. The smell of burnt hair filled the surrounding air. I twisted around to see if there was something behind us, but I only saw Doug and Jenna fighting for window space. I turned back to a very confused Paul. "Do you smell?" A booming bass ran down on us. Time stood still. I felt the push from the sound wave ripple across my body. The force caused me to stumble to one knee. I clamped my hands on my ears to block out the bellowing, but it was in vain. I felt my eardrums vibrate and begin squealing. This wasn't like anything that I had ever heard before. The drive-thru menu lights exploded, shooting glass shards at a terrified and exposed Reggie. He raised his hands to block the glass. In the last flashes of light, I saw jagged red cuts open up on his pale white skin. With that, we were in the dark again. Through my hand-muffed ears, I heard a high-pitched jolt of sound blow out and shatter every piece of glass in a 20-foot radius. The Mas Tacos drive-thru window cracked into 3 large pieces and fell to the ground. It shattered into glass rubble. With the barrier to the restaurant gone, I clearly heard Jenna's horrified screams. Doug was yelling something, but the Sky's soundtrack made it impossible to hear. I shut my eyes. Mary had never warned me about this. The rumbling from the sky was so intense, I felt my bones rattle and my innards quake. I let out a scream that my ancestors could hear. It too became lost to the soundscape. Seconds later, the booming call from the gods came to a rapid crescendo before dropping out completely. There wasn't even an echo. The only noise that I heard was the last remnants of my throat-cracking scream. My voice finally died out and I collapsed onto the ground. I couldn't find my breath and panic quickly set in. In a flash, I sat up and gasped for air like a dying goldfish. When I finally captured my foe, I took a second and took several huge gulps. Once I had avoided death, I threw up my dinner. I remember seeing an ant near the pile and thinking, well dude, that should set you up for the whole year. When I finally got my wits about me, I pushed up and got to my unsteady feet. I noticed that Paul had also collapsed to the ground. He slowly stood up and shook away the cobwebs. It didn't work. His eyes looked wild and shock froze his face. His mind had cracked like a tree zapped with lightning. He was trapped under the trunk. Panic was setting in. I reached out and grabbed his hand. It was clammy and cold in my grip. We locked eyes and I started speaking, but nothing came out. My voice was shot. I coughed to clear my throat. Nothing happened at first, but when my body remembered to make saliva, it cleared up the alphabet jam in my mouth. We're alive, I croaked out as I grabbed his shoulders. I'm here and we're alive. His eyelids lowered and you could see that his body was purging the fear from his system. Beads of sweat covered his face, and he wiped his brow with the back of his free hand. Both hands were shaking. I remembered that I was still holding him, but instead of letting go, I gave him a slight squeeze, reminding him that he wasn't alone. I found it calming as well, a human connection in an alien world. Doug's screaming finally broke through. I turned back to see him frantically pointing at the sky. I looked up and saw a kaleidoscope of bright, colorful lights, shifting and swirling above us. It was mesmerizing. It reminded me of how paint meets water, darkening and swirling, no pattern to follow. Jenna was screaming as well. Without hearing her words, I knew what she wanted. I reached around me and found her phone. I hit record and I aimed it up at the sky. Her screen captured the electric northern lights as they danced above us. There wasn't a single sound emanating from this craft. It just hovered in the sky and showed us the most incredible Christmas light display that any of us had ever seen. This must be what you see before you die, I said out loud, but not meaning to. One can hope, Paul answered, mesmerized. I realized that we were still holding hands. I glanced over at Paul and noticed blotches of red on his face. It wasn't bloody cuts like Reggie had sustained, but more like a sunburn. Oh shit, Reggie, where was he? Reggie, I screamed. No response. I ran over to where he had been standing, once again catching a whiff of something burning. Hair or some chemical. A horrid thought filled my brain. Is that Paul's skin burning or my own? From behind me, I heard Paul walk over. When I got to the drive-thru speaker, there was no sight of Reggie, but the smell of burnt hair hung heavy in the air. I waved it away from my face and called out to him again. Reggie! He wasn't there. Where did he go? Paul asked, joining me. They must have taken him. Who's they and what the hell is going on? Yo, behind you! Doug yelled from the window. In the shadows of the drive-thru landscaping, we saw 3 figures crouched in the darkness of the nearby bushes. The burnt hair smell wafted heavily from their direction. They didn't move an inch, even after Doug had outed them. Paul took a nervous step back. This shit ain't worth 12 an hour. I reached back and grabbed his arm, cementing him in place. You can't leave me here. A crinkling sound emerged from the bushes. A rhythmic clicking answered the crinkles. 2 of the figures in the bushes moved slightly. The crinkling and clicking became more rapid, almost as if these 2 things were arguing. And then they went quiet again. The bushes shook and the silent third figure walked out. My eyes caught the growing intensity of the busted drive-thru light bulbs re-illuminating. They were back from the dead. The shattered filament emitters provided enough light to expose what this thing really looked like. It was the Derby Man. Up close, what we had assumed had been a ghost was in truth an actual creature. It appeared to be a man from the 1930s, but it was impossible to distinguish any specific facial features. It was an unfinished drawing. From afar, it was a person. Up close, though, that melted away. It hit the right note, sure, but the song was off. At that moment, the idea of the uncanny valley came crashing into my frontal cortex. We fear things that look like us but aren't us. This thing wasn't us, not at all. Paul reached for my hand and found it. We didn't move, hell, we hardly breathed. The Derby Man took another step toward us. The closer he got, the more abnormal he looked. His face shared the same swirling watercolor paint that we saw in the sky. I remember thinking, why was he dressed like Philip Marlowe? In a flash, I wondered if the last time these things were here was during that era. His clothing would have blended in then, but now it made him stand out. He came back assuming that he could mimic us and discovered that we had changed. "The hell is this?" Paul asked, his voice wavering. He tightened his grip. The thing before us chittered and crinkled as if it was responding in a tongue that neither of us knew. It took a step toward Paul and I felt his body brace to run. I squeezed his hand, a subtle reminder that we were attached. "Don't make any sudden movements," I cautioned. "We don't know what they want." The Derby Man stood in front of Paul. It looked him up and down. It reached into the pockets of the trench coat and pulled out a small handheld device. At first blush, we both thought that it was a weapon, but then a puff of smoke burst out and settled around us. It smelled like burnt hair and freshly cooked donuts. At any other time, these two concurrent smells would repulse anyone, but at this moment they smelled amazing. My body relaxed. The tips of my fingers and toes went numb. I had to remember to squeeze Jenna's phone tighter, else I would have dropped it. Oh my god, I still had her phone. And it was still recording. I swallowed hard and tried to not let on that I was doing anything clandestine. I wasn't sure what I had captured up to this point, but I knew that Jenna's follower count was about to swell like a tick on a sleeping dog. The creature twisted its hand and a glass lens appeared. The Derby Man punched a few buttons and a red horizontal laser shot out the front. Paul flinched, but he stayed put. The laser scanned him from head to toe and then winked out. The Derby Man crinkled, chittered, and clicked at us. Maybe it said something profound, but I'll never know. It sounded like birds in the woods to me. Seconds later, the Derby Man shook as if seizures gripped his body. It ripped off the clothes that it had been wearing. Its body wasn't human, he was like a Ken doll. Paul and I both took a few steps back, wondering if this thing was going to explode. Would it attack? Kidnap us like it had Reggie? But instead, the tearing of flesh filled the air. Ribs opened up across the watery painted face and down his human-looking skin. Blood spurt from burst open veins. And that's when it hit me. It was shedding. The husk landed on the cement with a wet slap. Seconds later, the lump of blobby skin dissolved into nothing. We turned our attention back to the creature. The bloody pulp moved around and a new form emerged from the ether. And it looked exactly like Paul. The thing chittered again, his voice had deepened. They pressed another button and the musky donut smell had dissipated. My mind cleared and the terror that I had been feeling rushed into the void. The two beings that had been hiding in the bushes emerged. One looked strikingly like Reggie, the other like me. My body went liquid and I started to faint. I stumbled, but Paul caught me before I split my head open on the road. The two human puppets joined their pal in front of us. The smell of burnt hair was overwhelming. They clicked and chittered for a minute before another ear-splitting boom erupted above our heads. A flash of white light above us was so intense that it made our little section of the strip mall look like noon. I shut my eyes and covered my ears again. The ringing boom ended as quickly as it had begun. I opened my eyes and beheld a new world. It looked like ours but felt changed. Uncanny Valley, I thought. I had laid eyes on something I wasn't supposed to see, and I felt like I was waking from a long and detailed dream. The figures were gone. A naked and befuddled Reggie was in their place. He didn't look injured, save for many minor cuts on his arms and face. I noticed an intricate pattern of 7 triangles across his thigh. At a glance, I thought it was a tribal tattoo, but then I clocked that they were scars. 6 were old, but the 7th was oozing blood. It clicked in that moment that Reggie had seen these guys before. He had tried to tell me earlier, but I wasn't hearing what he had been saying. I ran to him and shook him. His eyes fluttered open and he looked at me in a haze. "Are you okay?" I asked. "It happened again, didn't it?" Though Paul was struggling with what had happened, he had enough sense to peel off his hoodie and hand it to Reggie. "You look cold." Reggie thanked him and put it on. "I'm sorry that I brought this onto you all. What happened? They always come back." Jenna and Doug burst out of the door and rushed over to us. They were both jabbering, but it came at us as another wave of noise. Over it, I heard Doug rambling through all the things that we had just experienced, and Jenna began begging for her phone. I felt it in my hand, and without thinking, I handed it to her. "What the hell?" she said. "What?" I finally asked. "Nothing's recorded. It shows a file but says that it's corrupted." "Yeah, they do that," Reggie said. "I've never been able to capture them." "Well, that sucks," Jenna said. I gave her a look and she softened. "Sorry, Reggie, here. I grabbed you a towel." We only had hand towels. It didn't cover everything but the important bits. We helped him up off the ground and formed a little wall around him to give him some privacy. "Oh shit," Doug said. "What the hell happened here?" He was staring at the Bank of Chester. A thick layer of raised black soot decorated the bricks. The soot formed the same pattern that was marked on Reggie's thigh. The spaces between the pattern appeared washed out, as if the sun had faded the stone. "Mr. Adamyan is going to be pissed," Doug said. The fury at what Mr. Adamyan might think was the last thing on my mind. Doug approached the wall to touch the soot, but a stirring yelp from Jenna stopped him in his tracks. "What if it's poisonous, you idiot?" "True," he said sheepishly. They helped escort Reggie back into the restaurant. Paul and I stared at each other. There was so much to say, but the words couldn't find the way out. Eventually, I did find my voice. "So, it wasn't a ghost," he laughed. "And don't have to worry about making that call to Egon now. Oh, just the men in black, I suppose." "Are you okay?" he asked. "Not really. You?" "No, I think I'm gonna close the store early." "Same," I said. "Do you want to talk about this over coffee?" "I was thinking a stiff drink, or maybe 10. I laughed. "Know a place?" "Yeah, I'll text you the address," he said. "I should get back and see how my people are doing." "Burgers ahoy," I said, instantly regretting it. "Burgers ahoy," he repeated with a small smile. He gave me a little wave as he laughed. I walked back towards Ma's Tacos and started laughing. Not because anything was funny, far from it, but because my mind and body didn't know how to respond to so much simultaneous stimuli. It was a mess for sure, and I dreaded the future conversations with Mary about what had gone down tonight. But I was moving forward, and that's all that I could ask of myself at the moment. There would be a realization, tears, and nightmares later, but I wasn't letting that get to me. I was in survival mode. Keep marching. Work now, cry later. The smell of burnt hair filled my nostrils again. I turned back and I scanned the shadows, but nothing stood out. I listened for either chittering or clicking, and I heard neither. In my gut, I knew they were still here, watching and waiting, taking stock of us. How had we responded? Would we fight them? Which of us would be the next Reggie?